Well, hey guys. Wow, subject. I've got basically two subjects I want to go ahead and get into today. All right, and I want to, for those of you who traditionally, lube your bullets. Okay, the one thing that I found out years ago, without going into a big long story. Okay, this came through the evolution of casting and sizing and, me using my bullets in competition and blah, 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 blah. And, it goes on and on and on. And I can spend an hour just telling you a story about it. However, one of the things that I did, you know, realize about the presses for lubricizing at the time. Now, I started out with a Model 45 Lyman, and then I ended up with a 450 Lyman, and I sold that, and then I ended up buying the Lubomatic. Okay, and I've had this forever. This has been one of the presses that I've had for an extremely long time. So anyway, what I want to do is I want to move on. A friend of mine who was he's a commercial bullet caster. He has a Magma, you know, lubricizer, and it has a coilator and everything on it. And I mean, that's $11,000. That's a lot of money to be pressing out for something like that. But it's all micro switched and air assisted and everything. You just throw the switch, dump the bullets in, and it automatically can tell whether or not it has a bullet go through it or where it'll apply lube and all kinds of stuff going on with that thing. And it's just a really awesome machine. So one thing I noticed is that the bullets were always fed nose down. Okay, and just out of curiosity, I asked him. I said, "How come they're fed, nose down?" And what he told me is, well, when the bullet enters the die, the ram punch comes down to push it through. And what happens is that the ram punch centers the bullet. The bullet will automatically center in its orifice, okay? And when it goes down through there, it'll always be centered. And he asked me, he says, well, what kind of lubricizer do you use? And I said, well, I use a Lubomatic. I have a Lubomatic now. And then Rick told me, he says, Dave, those are hobby toys, and they're geared for the guy that is just going to spend every little last second. At the time, this was it. I mean, we didn't have powder coating at that time. So, he told me, he says, what you can do is you take the bullet, this being the bullet, and you set it in the die upside down. And what you do is you pull the handle down, okay, without any pressure on the reservoir. And then you knock it back out, okay? And what that did is it makes the bullet round, okay? One thing, if you push the bullet in base first, if you set the bullet up there like that, if you set the bullet up there like that and push it down into the die, well, what can happen is that you get more swaging on one side of the bullet than the other, and then the bullet is not concentric anymore, and that causes inaccuracies and inconsistencies. So the way that you get around that is you stick it upside down, okay, and you adjust your bottom punch here, okay, you adjust it so that the front of the of the driving band contacts the outer edges of the die. And then when you come down with your punch, it'll contact the bottom of it and force it down in there. Okay? And it makes it round and you pop it back out. Okay? Then you turn it right side up and then force it back down in there and apply the lube. Back off your lube. Okay? Back off the pressure on your lube before you knock it back out. And you just do it that way. Now it takes a long time to do that, okay? And me at the time, I wasn't producing enough bullets by casting to keep up with the demand of bullets that I was using, and I was buying bullets from Rick, okay? So I want to move into something else here. Now, Cranky Cletus brought up a very, very, how should I say this? He set up the parameters of where he is in his reloading venture. Okay? Now, I'm not going to bring up brand name. He has, bought a new press, and he's buying accessories for that press so he can expand the capabilities and the speed that he needs in order to produce ammunition without spending all day at the bench. Okay? Now that right there, I can relate that to a story. A friend of mine, I invited him out one time to go, you know, shoot at a service rifle shoot. This is the first time he's ever went to a service rifle shoot. And when we signed up for it, we paid our match fees, we paid, the entry fee and all that stuff. He went over to the match director and he paid for target service. And I thought to myself, man, that's kind of a waste of money paying for target service. So I went over to Chris and I told him, I said, dude, that's kind of a waste of money because all you got to do is just go down to the pits, pull your targets, score them, throw them back up there, and then when it's your time on the rotation to go back up there and shoot, or you're going to be scoring or whatever, it's just one of those things. You can go down there, you can eat your lunch or whatever while you're doing your pulling targets. You know what he did? Chris looked at me. He got this expression on his face. I'll never forget it. And he goes, I didn't come down here to pull targets, okay? He says, I came down here to shoot to win. And that's the only thing that's going to be on my mind. And, I figured I'd give it a try. So I went ahead and I paid for target service that day. And guess what? I shot a better score than I ever have. And you want to know why? Because I was spending less time doing other things and getting with the main deal of what I was trying to achieve. Okay? Does that make sense to you? I mean, I wasn't worried that I was going to have to walk 600 yards down to the pits, score targets, sit there and hump on a target frame, throwing it up and down, scoring it, and all this other crap, and then have to turn around, eat my lunch all at the same time, then come out of the pits, go all the way back up 600 yards, and then get all of that out of my mind, and then try to shoot. Okay? So, Chris made perfect sense. And guess what? Once I started doing that, my scores went way up. I stopped entertaining the lunacy of going through the extra work because it really isn't a bother. So, I want to say desire. It's about what you desire. Now, Cranky Cletus made it very clear. He is in an area of his craft and at the level of the desire that he has. You see, his needs are at the desire that he has, and his desire is to expand, to have more capability on the bench with his press. Okay? Totally get it. And I'm not finding fault with him. Now, what brought this whole thing to light, and the reason why I got this out, and the reason why I showed you the whole thing of flipping the bullet upside down, there was a point to all this. Now, as you guys know, I have a star, okay? And I have an automatic bullet feeder for the star, and I'm not trying to compare the star to anybody else's equipment out there. It really isn't about brand name at this time, at what I'm trying to talk about, the meat of the subject. What I'm talking about is desire. How fast do you want to go with your bullet making sizing operation by powder coating? Now, Lee has came out with her APP press, okay, and it has a little shuttle, okay, that moves the bullets over the sizing die, just like the star. They drop down in, and guess what? The punches it down through, it comes out through the bottom, and, you just keep cranking on the handle, okay? Now, one of the things that guys are bringing up is the whole thing about the bullet feed, okay? They have their feed tube, okay, so, they have to load the feed tube, all right, and they want to get around that. They want to have some way. There's something that leads to solving the problem without having to load all those, bullets in the feed tube. Now, I went through the same thing with that star. I had feed tubes on the star. Until somebody invents something that is budgetly priced, or through the engineering of their knowledge, comes up with something that you can put together that automatically puts them nose down, or they go through a tube. Okay, now Uncle Jim was talking about this to feed to the APP press, and he can just go ahead and just keep cranking on it, and then every once in a while throw some bullets in there, and they go down the tube nose down, and it feeds it properly. Okay, coming up with the engineering and coming up with the angle and coming up with a little stand that you can tilt, the feed or the funnel or whatever you're going to use, that's all going to take evolution of process, okay? And there's really smart MFs out there that can figure this stuff out. I know one thing. Once I got the bullet feed, okay, Backyard Veteran, we got together, and we hammered out some details and some money changed and blah, blah, blah. And he ended up building me that Mr. Bullet Feeder. And I'll tell you what, that thing works awesome. I will not ever go back to handling bullets one at a time, or having to feed tubes or any of that other stuff. I've got 2 stars now, and both of them are set up for the bullet feeder. I can just move the bullet feeder. I have a stand that I can just pull it out, put it in the other stand, hook up the the feed spring, and then just go with the other star. And I can set that up in 38, and I can have the other one set up in 45, and that way I have big bore and small bore, 9mm, 38 special. Who knows? I might end up with a 32 someday. I don't know. But that's going to be my smaller caliber, press. My big bore press, 45, 44 Magnum. Who knows? I might end up with a 50 someday. I don't know. But I'm going to have that press set up so where all I have to do is change those dies and that, and then change these dies and this. The star is more complicated because, it injects lube. Okay, it injects lube, as the bullet goes through. So you have to adjust all that. Okay, it takes time to adjust all that. So once you get it all set up and it's working, the goal behind that star, okay, is to make as many bullets as you can. And it's funny, I spent a week and a half, roughly a week and a half, and I casted up 10,000 of those 170 grain bevel base H&G 63s. And I got 10,000 of them done. All I did was cast for like 5 days straight. Made about 2,000 rounds every time. Just spent a lot of time doing that. And then what I did is I took the bullet feeder, dumped the bullets in, and I just cranked out. So now I've got 10,000 of those match grade 170 grain bevel base semi-wide cutters already in boxes, in jugs, stored, ready to go. And you know what? I can take my 4-cavity Seiko mold that I made them with, I can wrap it up, oil it down, wrap it up, put it back in the box that it originally came with, and store it. Take it off the handles and store it. I won't need to do that for 4 or 5 years. I won't have to spend the time doing that operation in order to shoot 4 or 5 years. That's the way I look at it. It takes more time away from doing a chore, okay, and actually getting back into shooting. And that's where my desire is. Now, one thing that was brought up is I have a shot maker. Yes, I do. I have a shot maker. Also, I have a supply of material. Okay, I buy material. When I see it on sale, when I see it's available somewhere, I buy it. I bring it home and I stack it up. If I can recover material, I'll recover it. I buy blending alloys, from Rotometals. and I use that sparingly. And I do have some real high-end material for casting, like linotype and that sort of thing. And that's just a separate subject. That's for different, other than pistol. Shooting, to me, shooting linotype in pistols, yeah, you've pretty much hit the pinnacle on what to make a bullet out of. So you've got good accuracy there, and it's not really a molecular thing there or metallurgy, because your linotype bullets shoot really good. So, but I pretty much have the linotype reserved. Back to this: when I start making bullets for 308 and 303, I'll be back to using this machine here, because I don't want to go through all it takes to set up the star for just making rifle bullets, because I'm not going to make that many rifle bullets. I don't have the desire to make that many rifle bullets, just like Cranky is talking about. And I'll just go back to doing this. I already have the dies and the punches and everything I need for this. But I don't have this sitting on my bench anymore. My whole bench is covered with presses right now. So anyway, it's either that I'm going to have to build another bench, okay? One that has lubricizers on it and the casting, and just have a casting lubricizer bench, and then on the other side have a bench set up just for loading, that has storage for brass and stuff like that, and then come up with a rack system that I can store all my brass in, and have an area where I can set up my tumblers, so where I can clean that brass. So anyway, the APP press, the meat of the subject, is going to bring a lot of ideas to the table. There's going to be a lot of people that are getting this desire, to expand its capabilities, to spend less time at the bench making those bullets and actually going out and shooting. And that's what it's all about. It's about shooting. It's about improving your marksmanship skills. But you have to be able to cast bullets that are worth the time and expense to improve your skills. Does it make sense? Otherwise, you're just wasting your money. If you're making crappy bullets, well, you're getting crappy results. What's the sense of that? There was another thing too. It's like shot making, okay? Going back into this whole thing about material. I have a source right now that I can buy 60 pounds of wheel weight material, okay? And if I want to spend a little less, I can use range recovery material. I can get 50 pounds of that for $60 of the range recovery material. 50 pounds for $60. So if I take 50 and I go ahead and I divide that 50 pounds, I'm going to be able to make 800 rounds of 1 ounce shot, shotgun shells for my 12 gauge. I can make 800 rounds for $50 for the payload, not including the wads, not including the primers. I'm getting premium components too as well. Now, if you go down to, like in here where I live in Washington State, taxes and locality and other things judge a lot of prices where I live. So you go down to Walmart, and right now, Walmart for that 100-round pack of Winchester or the Federal, value pack of shotgun shells, that right there is going to run you about $26. Okay, and then you're going to have to pay taxes on it. So you're paying $30 per 100. So, yeah, I have a shot maker. Yeah, I have the press. Yeah, I have to buy my wads and all my primers and all that stuff. But it's not near the amount that I would spend if I had to go out and buy all that ammunition. Even on the value pack. Now I can look for pallets. I mean, I can go ahead and say I want to buy a whole pallet of 2,000 rounds of, Federal, target grade ammunition and just have it delivered to the house, I might even be money ahead, maybe, if I see the right deal. But to tell you the truth, I have the capability right now of not having to go through the hassle of going out there and looking for the best deal, waiting for the mail guy to show up, having to, do all that. I can just make everything I need and store everything I need, and I've got it when I want it, and I don't have to go to the store, and I don't have to order it, and I don't have to worry about the price, of the components. I can look for that on deals and order in bulk, and, I've got it, I can go out with a 5-gallon bucket full of shotgun rounds and go to the range and go to the trap, range and shoot those rounds all day long. And it doesn't cost me hardly any money at all, really, in the end, to do that versus going out and buying all that ammo. So it gives me the flexibility that I want and the freedom of being able to make as much as I want whenever I want. So it all boils down to what I was saying earlier about desire. You gotta have desire. You have to have the desire to become a better marksman. You have to free yourself up from doing other details to focus on that. And that's the reason why these machines are made. So you spend less time on the bench making ammunition and going out and shooting that ammunition. So, Cranky's on his way. He bought a progressive press. He did that because he wants to spend less time making his ammo and going out and shooting it. And I totally get it. So anyway, this is Thorzak's. That was my long and drawn out story that I wanted to shorten up as much as I could. Maybe that was boring to you guys, but I just wanted to show you where I was coming from. One day I'll go back to using this, but for right now I'm just making pistol stuff. But I will go back to rifle sooner or later and get into that. And I have linotype and I have other stuff that I'm going to use for that. So anyway, so there you go. This is Thorzak's. I'm signing out. Just a little food for thought. Just a little food for thought. That's it. That's all I was trying to put out here in this video. Until next time.